Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today I'm going to be going it alone to try to survive the attacks upon my vessel in deep space D-6. This is a solitaire worker placement game in which you are going to be rolling dice, placing those dice on your ship in different stations. You're going to have a ship in front of you out of 4 possibilities in here. You're going to be flipping over cards that are the baddies coming after you. They're going to be attacking you, denying you locations, messing with your crew, all sorts of things. And ultimately, you are trying to survive all those threats against you and win the whole thing. And if you can't keep your ship intact, well, you're going to lose. So that's basically it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at how this works. I'll show you on the table. We'll come on back after that. I'll give you some final thoughts. To set up the game, the first thing we need to do is figure out which ship we are going to want to play with. You've got this one as well as these 3 over here, and you can go with whichever one you want. They all function slightly differently from one another, having the different actions you can take with the dice be specific to that ship. So we're going to go with this one, which is the one they recommend you begin with, all right? So we'll set the others aside. I'll put this guy into play there. We're going to shuffle up the deck of cards, put that somewhere. So I'll put it here above it. We've got the dice and we've got a couple of trackers. This one's going to track our hull and this one's going to track our shields. They both begin full up. We're going to put 2 cards into play. So this one would go there and this one would go there. You just match up the numbers. This is an external threat. This is an internal threat. I'm going to pick a different one for this just for the sake of our example here. There we go. Let's do that. All right. And then we are ready to begin. So we're going to be taking successive turns, hopefully successful, but successive turns until the game is over because we either lose, we run out of hull. If this hits 0, we're done. Or we win, which happens when we've cleared out all of these cards and these cards. There's no more threats. We made it to the end of the game and we win, okay? That's basically it. So each round is going to go like this. There's quick rules right here on the back of the rule book. And I'm going to run you through these. So the very first thing we do, I'm going to put that aside for myself, is we're going to roll all the available crew dice here. And any that show that face, that would be a bad face, are going to go up here. The next thing would be if there are 3 of these here, so if this is full up, we draw a new threat, put it into play. Otherwise, they stay there. And if they were filled up and this triggered, then you would take all the ones from here and put them over here in the returned area. You'd get those at the beginning of the next turn. Once that's done, then I can use all of these dice to perform various actions. Some cards you can assign them to, but mainly what you'll do with them is send them to their matching locations on board the ship to do whatever the action is. And they are different things, you know, science and scientists and technicians and the guys who fire the lasers, all that stuff. That's what they represent. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they do. All right, I'm going to run you through these, and I will look up what they all mean just to stay thematic, all right? We got a little breakdown here of what the things mean. So we'll start up here with the commander. That's going to let you change a crew die to any other face. Did not get any of those. We've got the lasers here for the tactical die. So I'm going to go ahead and assign one of those there. This is going to give me 1 damage. If I had another one, I would get to add plus 2 more damage for each of those. And these you can split up. So it's just 1 damage right now. I figure out what I want to assign it to. I'm going to assign it over here. Bloop. And so every time something takes a hit, it's going to drop down this scale here. Once it comes off the bottom, I've dealt with it. We've got over here, this is medical, and I didn't roll any of them, but if I had, I could use them to remove these dice from here, or to take back any dice that ended up in the infirmary, which is sort of, you know, they're down for the count until I take them back. We've got the science, which is the green, that's going to recharge my shields. Or it's going to trigger that stasis beam, which I will do. Now, the shield, a single die there recharges the shields completely. And normally, you have to burn through the shields as these guys hit me until, and you will not start cutting into the hole until the shields are all the way down. A single die there replenishes them entirely. However, they're fine. So I'm going to use the stasis beam part of this power, which means I put it on a card, and this one I put it on a card, and it does not trigger this round. Fantastic. And then these two down here would let me repair my hull, which is fine. I don't need to assign them. That's done. So let's go back to our steps over here. So that was step 3, which is assigning the crew to stations or missions. Number 4 is draw a new threat card. We draw one, we play it where it goes, and then we are going to roll this threat die, all right? So we're going to roll that. It's a 1. This would normally trigger, but it's caught in a stasis beam. Nothing, nothing. So that is done. And then I gather all my available dice and roll off again at the beginning of the next turn. So I get these come back to me. That guy stays there. I roll that. Okay, none of the bad dice came up. I'm going to use that laser to take out this guy. Put that in the discard pile. I'm going to stasis beam both of these guys again, and these two I don't really need to assign. So that's done. Draw a new card, put it into play, roll that. And let's say I rolled a 4, just for the sake of our example. And let's say for the sake of our example, I didn't have the stasis beam, all right? So let's say that's what it looks like. I rolled a 4 from the top, nothing. This one does trigger -2 hull. They take it from the shield first, and this one says -1 hull. Send a unit to the infirmary. Fine, so my hull drops by 1, and I send any one thing to the infirmary out here. And so at the beginning of my next turn, I would re-roll just these. And I would do something like that. Let's say I got this. Oh, this one goes up here. That triggers. I put one of these into play. These go there, and then I can work with these two. All right? And then I'll get these back, but not the infirmary until I release it with the medical die. So that's basically it, okay? And like I said, these abilities and actions are largely the same for the different ships, but they behave somewhat differently as well. So for example, let's take a look at another ship just briefly here. Also, as you'll see a big difference between the shields and the actual hull on the ship. This one has a lot of shields, but once they're through it, they will tear through my ship pretty quickly. So there we go. This one, for example, rockets. I can launch rockets. Each one is 2 hits, but I cannot split this up. I can't split up this damage. I also have the ability to do this quantum cannon with 2 dice and just send something back into the deck. Just shuffles back in. The leader die on this one lets me copy something else. So I rolled, I want another cannon. Great, I can just turn this one into a cannon and boom, boom, 2 hits, 2 hits, okay? So they each will work a little bit differently, but that's pretty much it. There's a couple of variants and things. There's this you can choose to fight against, some sort of, a boss, basically. But I'm not going to go into all those details too much, just giving you an idea of how this works. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. All right, that is Deep Space D-6. I had heard a lot of good things about this game, but I was a little bit turned off by it upon, it's one that didn't get to the table quickly for me because it's not much of a looker. I like the cover all right. It makes me, it looks like an old book, right, and it is meant to have that sort of aesthetic, so I like the look of that. The back isn't great. It's this sort of really grainy, pixelated image. And then the components in it don't look great. But I heard a lot of good things. Finally gave it a try. And then I played again. And then I played again. And it's a good game. It definitely is interesting and engaging. So let's go ahead and break it down, shall we? Let me tell you what I think of it. I'm going to start with... Let's start with the things I don't like, and we'll end strong, all right? So my biggest negative here is the ease of play. This rule book is not great, and in fact, if you go to the Board Game Geek entry for this, you will see the number of rules queries is tremendous. There are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions when it comes to what some things mean, how some things work. A lot of it relates to the The boss fight, the Ouroboros in here, it's just, there's some things that should be clearer, you know, and they're not. So I had to look up a bunch of stuff online. Be aware that you might simply be able to read this and figure it out, have no issues at all. You might have some issues. So there you go. That's my biggest drawback for the game. And then next up, the aesthetics, like I said. The look, I don't particularly like, but you might love the look. I'm talking here about the component quality, okay? The cards are really low quality. Some of mine are banged up a little bit. The dice, I think, are fine. The boards have that big, nasty crease in the middle like mass market games do. The whole thing feels cheap, you know, the production quality of it feels fairly cheap. So, not great. Not a big thumbs down. Those dice are pretty nice. But, it isn't, I do wish there was a nicer version produced of this game, okay? Alright, everything else I do enjoy, like I said. Themes, fun, sci-fi, old school, Star Trek-ish kind of vibe. I dig it. The replay value here is good. It's got a nice variety to it. You can put in the boss, not put in the boss. Change your difficulty by removing some nothing happens cards. You can play with a different ship each time, and they do play differently, for sure. They're very distinct. You might like some, not like others, right? There is that too, but there's variety in the box, so that's good. The game arc is nice. It's got quick turns. It's got some peaks and valleys. It might feel a little anticlimactic depending on how you choose to put in that big boss. It might show up halfway through the game. And then the rest of the game, assuming you can beat that, then feels a little anticlimactic a little bit, but, you know, there's also a way in which you can set up the game where the boss just shows up at the end, where the boss would show up. You can decide how you want to do that. So, not a big deal. And then lastly, tactics, strategy, luck. The game's lucky for sure. It's a dice-chucking game, okay? There is luck in it. But the turns are so quick. There are such neat little choices you can make in the game. It is tactical, it's fun, and a lot of reacting to what's happening, and new things show up, and things suddenly go awry, and you have to recover from it, and you get dangerously low on your hull points. And yeah, it's fun, it's engaging, and it is a tactical game. Very, very rich that way. So even though I have some issues with the way the game looks, the way the game is produced, and especially the way the game is explained, overall, if you can push past those things, look up the answers you need if you need any, be gentle with the cards, etc., etc., I think there's a really fun, engaging solitaire game here. My kind of solitaire game. The ones that are not sprawling, the ones that don't take 2 hours, the ones that aren't going to require a lot of juggling of various, you know, things that I need to maintain. This is the kind of solitaire I want. It's 30 minutes. It's quick to set up. I understand the turn structure, and I can just go boom, 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 boom. Hey, I won or I lost, and that's it. So this is going to get, from me, an 8 out of 10. I really like it. It's fun. If you like sci-fi, if you want some fun dice-chucking worker placement type game, and you like the look of this and you're good with all that, then I think you're also going to enjoy it. So Deep Space D-6 gets a thumbs up from me. That is a seal of approval, folks. An 8 out of 10. So that's going to be it. Thanks everybody for checking this out with me. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.